Hello, readers, and welcome back to Quarantine Literacy. This week is going to be a wonderful, magical week because this week we are talking about imagination. And your imagination is truly limitless. You can be anyone, you can go anywhere, and you can do anything in your imagination. So I thought we would read some books that highlight characters who use their imagination. And there's probably no better book, and certainly no more famous book, than Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. This book, as I said, is probably the most famous book that sort of exemplifies using your imagination. This is Harold, and he's a little boy with a huge imagination. And you'll see as he creates an entire adventure just with his imagination. He doesn't have to actually even leave his bedroom. You ready? One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. So what's he going to do? He only has one item in this entire book. It's a purple crayon. And you'll see that he creates an entire reality for himself with just a purple crayon and his imagination. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. See how he's drawing everything from his imagination? He drew an apple tree. He drew this moon and the path that he's following. And he's creating a whole story around his drawings. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. He backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. And what's happening as the crayon is shaking? He's creating something else. Suddenly he realized what was happening. His crayon had created water, you guys. But by then Harold was over his head in an ocean. He came up thinking fast, and in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. Phew! Good thing Harold has such a good imagination. He quickly set sail. There he is drawing the sail on his boat. And the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. Look, he even drew an anchor for his boat. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. And you notice he's drawing everything, you guys. None of these things actually exist. They're all just make-believe. He's using his imagination to create this whole adventure. There was nothing but pie. Sounds like my kind of picnic. But there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best, of course. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. Who's he drawing? So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. So he drew some friends to help eat the pie that was left over. And off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see. So he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He's climbing higher and higher. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped, and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. Oh no, you guys, what's going to happen? We know he's using his imagination. Do you think he could think up something else to help him from falling? But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon, and he grabbed onto it. That Harold, he sure is smart and quick. And he made a basket under the balloon, big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. Look at that. He just keeps creating and creating, doesn't he? Wow, he made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman, but first he has to draw a policeman, right? So he's drawing the police officer. The policeman pointed the way. Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. Then suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. So now he's drawing the moon on the outside, and he's inside the window. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it, and he drew up the covers. Looks like Harold might be done with his adventure. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. Wow. If ever there was a kid who could use his imagination, I think Harold is a wonderful example of someone with a wild and wonderful imagination. He just has one item with him. He doesn't have a room full of toys. He doesn't have things with lights and sounds. He doesn't have things that move. He's just got one crayon. And with that crayon, he's creating a whole magical world inside his head using his imagination. He isn't really going on those long walks, climbing up mountains and walking through cities by himself. He's imagining them. And that is the power of using your imagination. You can make anything happen. You can go anywhere and do anything. Your imagination is a wonderful tool. and it's something that you can really take advantage of using right now. You may not have all the things that you need or want right now, and it may be some time until you get to do all of the things that you want to do. But you'll never lose your imagination. No one can take that away from you. And you don't need anything else except what's in your head. So I challenge you to create a wonderful world around you just using your imagination. Today, forget the toys, forget the stuff, forget even having people around you. Find some quiet space, use your imagination, and create a wonderful world all of your own. Okay, until tomorrow, readers, have fun. Bye.